often find that one of your biggest struggles when watching thrift flip DIYs is that you can't find that item in your thrift store. Well, we are going to change that today by making some DIY thrift flips from commonly found items. Hi, I'm Allie and welcome to my channel. As I mentioned, we are here for another DIY thrift flip, and I went thrifting looking for some of the very common and my most grabbed items from the thrift store. I did a previous Thrift With Me and haul if you want to check that out after this video. And in that I picked up some items that I knew I wanted to DIY. And I've made sure that I picked items that I think you could easily find at your own thrift store. Like, these are very basic, simple items. I cannot wait to show you what I came up with, so let's get started. This one I wanted to show a unique way of transforming a frame into something else, and then you'll see another frame idea a little later on in the video. But this one might be my favorite project. You are not gonna wanna skip over this one. I picked up this shadowbox frame. It was super cheap. My inspiration for this piece is this tray from H&M Home, and I want to do my own spin on it. So what I'm going to do first is spray paint the entire thing. Well, I removed the fabric backing from the frame first, but I'm spray painting the entire thing with matte sand dollar spray paint. I know the inspo piece showed it in black, but I thought I would do something different with this beige tone. I've been really loving it lately. Then I also had these two drawer pulls that I thrifted a while ago, used them for an older DIY, wanted to give them a new purpose with something that I could use a little bit more year round. And because I did an antique finish on them and I wasn't happy with that for this particular piece, I decided to spray paint them with my favorite metallic gold spray paint by Rust-Oleum. Now the next step is something that you would have to acquire. I got my cane webbing off of Etsy for a fairly affordable price. However, if you don't like cane webbing, you could do a scrapbook paper, you could do a faux tile, you could do some of the wallpaper sheets that they sell at Dollar Tree. The possibilities for this, I promise, are endless, but because I'm going for that inspiration piece look, I chose to go with the cane webbing. I'll be sure to link some options below if you do want to duplicate the tray in the way that I'm making it. Now with cane webbing, you're going to want to dampen the piece that you are using. That's actually going to expand all of the fibers. So when you place it into the frame, you're gonna notice that it's kind of bowing and puckering. I guess puckering is not the word, but it's just not laying flush to the backing. That is perfectly fine. Don't worry about it, because once that cane webbing dries, it's gonna be nice and tight to the bottom of the tray. And then as the final step for this project, I just marked on the sides of this tray where the handles were gonna go. I just found the center, and instead of drilling into this frame, I'm using a combination of E6000 glue and Gorilla brand hot glue for a super strong hold. I also used a little bit of painter's tape to hold everything in place until that glue was absolutely cured. And I just am so excited to show you the final result. I am in love with this piece. Something that you definitely will find when you go to the thrift store are books. Now I looked for some nice neutral cover books for this project. It just is easier for this DIY, where I'm gonna leave the books intact for this project. Just a few simple changes for an entirely new look. For my inspiration, I saw these books at McGann Co. with the linen covers. I loved how beautiful they were, but I did not love the price. So you're gonna need some linen fabric or linen or canvas type fabric. I found mine in the remnant section at Joann Fabrics. And then what I did was take that dust jacket cover off of each of the books and then traced it right onto the fabric and cut it out. And this is just incredibly simple. I used some spray adhesive, which I've been loving having in my supply stash lately. It is so important to have. I just applied it to the fabric. Then I placed the dust jacket so that the white side was down onto the fabric, because if you put it the other way, then you are going to see the design of the cover peeking through. You don't want that. So I'm doing it more of an inside out way, which incidentally, though it does kind of ruin the dust jacket cover, you could always flip it back the right way if you're done with your decor looking like this, and it would still pretty much look like exactly the same book. I love this because it's such a simple DIY. You end up with this gorgeous high-end set of books inspired by that McGee & Co photo, and it makes such a simple statement. If you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to give it a like. I have been loving doing DIY thrift flips a little more often than I have in the past, and I want to know if that's something that you guys love as well. So in the comments, let me know if you want to see more thrifting, and it helps if you give this video a like, because that will share this video to even more people here on YouTube and continue to grow this awesome DIY community that is happening here. One thing there is no shortage of at the thrift store are vases and pottery. So of course I had to pick up this large vase, vessel, flower pot sort of item. I loved the shape of it, as I explained in my haul video. I wanted to continue with that rustic antique pottery trend using a new technique you have probably never seen before. So let me show you what I did to transform this. I started by cleaning off the entire flower pot really well, and then I used this tan colored paint and I painted over the entire thing. Honestly, this step was pointless, but I just wanted a uniform kind of neutral color as the base of this pot. Then what I did was take some black paint, tan paint, a little bit of some white chalk paint, and baking soda, and then the secret ingredient is regular table salt. This is going to add such a unique texture. Adding the baking soda is going to add a little extra coverage, a little extra, maybe a pottery type texture, but putting in that salt brings in such a unique texture into the paint. I just love it. You can kind of see as it applies onto the vase here that it looks a little bit gritty, a little bit different than normal, and that is exactly what we're going for. I started by just giving the entire thing a whole coat of that all the way around, and I let that layer dry. And then I even went back in the areas where that tan was still showing through and added a second coat. Once all of those coats of paint had dried, I then went in with a fine grit sandpaper, and this is just to get rid of some of the more chunkier, rough areas on the flower pot or vase or whatever this is, and leave the texture kind of more selectively where you wanted it. But I really like how this gives a nice antique aged stone look when you do this. To enhance the pottery look, I then went in with some tan acrylic paint, the same that you've seen me throughout this entire segment. Painted that all around the bottom there, dabbed it with my fingers, trying to authentically make this look like a clay pot the best that I could. And then because I wasn't happy with the lighter tones, I do think this makes a nice faux concrete look, but that's not what I wanted. I then made a wash of a dark gray paint, and I just sort of brushed that all over the entire thing to darken it up. And then I actually went in with another layer, but with an almost black gray of paint, and I even used my hands just a little bit to blend it in and create a nice darker tone on this piece. And once I was finally satisfied with the color, I then went back in with that piece of sandpaper, roughed up the edges again, because I do like seeing some of that lighter tone peeking through. I think that really enhances the look. And finally, as a finishing step on the entire thing, I mixed up what was remaining of some of the darker gray tone with a lot more of that tan paint and started using my fingers to dab it and smear it all over the surface of the vase to mimic the look of mud. Of course, you could do the faux dirt mud technique. I didn't feel like going outside and getting some dirt and bringing it into my third floor apartment. So I went with the paint method, and I think it was just as effective as the real thing. Now you could absolutely seal this up with a matte top coat. I chose not to because I was in love with the final result. So here is what it looks like. And for our second frame project, I wanted to keep a picture frame working as a picture frame, but with a very unique spin on it using real gold. Well, it might be imitation gold, I'm not sure. But I really wanted to tackle this project based on this inspiration photo, and I wanted to recreate it in my own sort of way. So let's jump into the next project. So taking that frame, what I did was remove everything from the back till I just had the glass, and that was just to make it a little bit easier to mark off a nice rectangle in the middle. I made this rectangle just slightly smaller than what a 5x7 sized picture would be. You could also make this for a 4x6. You could get a bigger frame and make it for an 8x10, but I did want to stick to conventional measurements. I also took some painter's tape and masked off in that entire area where I marked with a Sharpie on the other side of the marking, because you will be able to remove that marking at the end. Now all I'm doing is taking some Mod Podge, it doesn't matter what kind of Mod Podge you use, and some gold leaf sheets. And I'm applying that down onto the frame using a fluffy brush to attach and adhere it to all the little nooks and crannies, and repeating that around the entire border of the frame, onto the glass, onto the frame itself, to create this cohesive gold look. But it looks so antique and unique because the gold leaf will always add this nice kind of wrinkly texture that will be so unique to your piece. And I love the look of this. I don't use it enough. I feel like it's such a great material to work with. And I did find too, you might want to practice just a little bit if you've never worked with gold leaf before, because it did get easier as I was working my way around the frame. I kind of perfected my technique just a little bit in applying it. So there is a slight learning curve, but nothing to be afraid of. And I just applied that all the way around, and I let the whole frame dry overnight. And then what I did the next day was come in with a little more Mod Podge and then some more gold leaf in these areas where it didn't quite stick, and I just covered those up. And I let that dry once again for a couple of hours. And then very simply, to get that nice clean frame edge, I removed that painter's tape, and the frame and that gold leaf kind of mat that we've created comes to life. It's just incredible. Then I went in with a fluffy brush to remove all of the excess, and you're able to remove that marking on the back of the glass once this is all done. With a little bit of rubbing alcohol, it comes right off, no need to worry about that. And then you can place in whatever photo you want, and you have this really unique frame and art piece in your home. If you want to see my secrets for thrifting for DIY thrift flips, you are going to want to check out this video right here. I take you shopping with me through the thrift store, picking out items, and then showing you at the end why I chose those items. But if you want even more thrift DIY ideas, I have a whole playlist right here. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!